Happy Thursday, folks. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Don't all jump in at once. I should check before we get started. Is my mic and headphones working?
Yes. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So you're all just that quiet.
Doing
I get it.
doing great. How are you?
There we are. Hey there, Sam. How's it going today?
Hello.
Greetings and salutations. I'm not used to them changing the share button to not have the big bright green color on it. Made it so much easier back when they did it that way. Alrighty. Let's kick this thing off. Get my chat window up in case I need to see something. Get my participants up in case somebody jumps in at the last second. And yeah, let's head into it. So I dropped a couple on the list for folks to review when you get a chance, which is not going to happen right now. Oh, it's back. Okay. GitHub has been having issues today. See if I can get all these loaded before the unicorn returns. Alrighty. So this one, the blob put on that, we want to support the 416, the same as when we had the blob patch. So I'm just documenting this the same text above on the blob patch. Just change it from a regular or any chunk that's being pushed during the patch, but also if it's pushed on that final put request, including that invalid range. So GitHub enables something breaks everything. Is that what you're trying to say, Rom? Gotcha. And let's see if I can load this one up without breaking anything. I can't. So this was the original issue. And it came out of some testing with the new conformance tests that we're working on. So realize that if we do that, we want to make sure we're specifying that inside the spec. So that's sitting out there looking for reviews. So I wanted to make sure that people saw that. And then we had one other, which was the cancel endpoint. And this, we had it documented way, way, way back in the day. But then it stopped being documented. So we removed the detail MD, and in there we had the definition of the cancel endpoint. So this is putting it back in there. I have pulled it out of the default conformance test, but I put it in the conformance test if you enable the next release, or if you manually enable it, either way. Any questions on either of those two? Y'all are just that chipper. Come on, I was up at like 3 a.m. a couple days ago. I was more chipper than this then. All right. The other one here was a Jory question. I'm leaving it on here until we get Jory, both the TOB election status, unless Sam knows any magic on the TOB election.
I do not know any magic on the TOB election.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything from Jory on that to know if the election is going, if they're still trying to get people to be nominated. I do not have visibility on that side of the house. So hopefully we hear back, see what's going on over there. So that and the licensing of the various source files out there, both of those are pending response back from LF. So hopefully we'll hear something from them. And then all I had left was one last thing that we heard, which was how on earth can you do a refers on some tag content if you're not the one that pushed that content by digest, so you don't know the original digest, and there's no guaranteed way to know the digest algorithm that the registry is going to pick. This would also apply if you're trying to pin content too. So the same kind of challenge exists of how do you determine the current digest of any content on the registry, specifically because the Docker content digest header is out there is not a requirement. That's optional for registries to support. Feel like that's just throwing a chaos grenade out there and just seeing what happens.
What I guess is there a reason why you can't just resolve the tag and use the digest you get back? Or is this just trying to shortcut that extra lookup?
Where do you get the digest back from the tag?
I mean, if you do like a head manifest with a tag, you get a digest back.
On some registries. Not all registries support the Docker content digest header.
That sounds like something to push for. I'd rather do that.
That's kind of where he's going, which was, do we want to make that a requirement to say, hey, you must do that? Because right now the spec just says it's optional.
I'm in a must mood. Let's make everything a must.
I mean, even apparently the verbiage, see if I can get this opened up. It's always a challenge. Legacy Docker supported HTTP headers because of the origin of the specification client may encounter Docker specific headers, including the digest, the API version. These are optional and clients should not depend on them. Those are our words. I wouldn't mind making it a must.
What if we make it an OCI digest header and make that a must?
I'd be fine with that too. Regardless of what we put in there, it's not going to help existing registries. But it might be nice to have it in there for the next version of the spec, especially if the next version of the spec says, hey, we have better support for SHA-512 and
I
other
mean,
algorithms.
but nothing that you would say is going to fix existing registries for this specific issue. Like you would
Yeah.
have to do a change for any of them.
Yeah. I think the thing I was just pointing out was that he's asking how do clients do this? And I'm just pointing out that clients with the existing environment, there is no guarantee. So we're in a permanent situation where because clients will support older registries, there's no guarantee.
Is there a list of I'm just kind of curious on what is the propagation of which registries do and do not return back the content digest header?
Now you make me want to check. Does anybody know off the top of their head if Quay is one of those doesn't support it?
Not Quay supports it.
It does. Okay.
Yeah.
I know I've seen it somewhere that that header isn't included. I thought it was a Red Hatty registry it did that, but I could be bad on my memory.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just so used to seeing it in so many open source tools that use that to check what the current tag is or what digest the tag is pointed to that I just assumed that it was supported everywhere.
Yeah, I have some extra code just to handle just such a scenario when a registry decides not to do it. And of course, my code assumes SHA-512 or 256.
Yeah, I'm not too opposed to just making this must.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious as to which ones, if are there any major big registries that don't support it? And I would say if they all do, yeah, there might be some smaller ones that don't, but if you flip it to a mouse, it doesn't really sound that breaking.
From the spec language, I think it's breaking.
I mean, but if we do a new version of the spec,
I would still say that clients should not depend on them as one of those things we need to be careful of because clients cannot guarantee what version of the server they're going to talk to. But to Rom's point, we do have a PR that's been out there for a while, which went back to way, way, way back in the early days, 2018. This is clearly before my time. There's a suggestion of using OCI headers out there. There's a suggestion of making Docker headers the 1.0 and OCI headers a 1.1. Derek wanted the Docker headers required. This is some good audio feed right here, isn't it? Now, why would we say that? You can't rely on it for security. Are we saying we can't rely on it for security because you haven't actually verified that it matches the content?
I think that's how I'd interpret that. Yeah, if you just read the digest by itself, it doesn't really do much for you.
Derek didn't drop in while I wasn't looking. I was hoping he might have just appeared. I was trying to figure out if there's some kind of attack that I'm not thinking of, where if you query for a tag and it says this tag points to this digest, that's a security attack. But at that point, you're asking the registry for the content too. You don't know what the content is.
Yeah, it seems like we
Yeah.
just kind of forgot that a head request without this header is pointless on a tag. Like, I guess it tells you whether the tag exists, but that's it.
Mhm. It would be a very nice thing if that did show up, but yeah, for me, I use it as a does this content exist? If the digest is there, I pass it along.
Yeah, I mean it's used very, very heavily to just flat out check for updates. I mean that's a bulk of the traffic against Docker Hub. So that's what a lot of the tooling just assumes. That does a head on the tag, gets back the digest, and then if the digest is the same as used locally, then it stops all further requests. So maybe the tooling doesn't necessarily require it or depend on it, but if it's there, it definitely makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, that was an intentional behavioral change based on Docker's first rate limit changes. Was to make basically every client do a head request first to resolve the tag. Like Containerd and Docker both start with a head request to resolve the tag to a digest, and then they pull the digest.
Yeah, the curious thing here is we had OCI content digest defined in the spec.
Was it removed during that time when we accidentally removed half of it?
This is in spec MD, so this was not in the details. I have to go back and look at the history to see when that got yanked back out again. We're doing Splunky in the code here today.
Maybe that one commit.
This happened way back in 2000. Which wasn't that long ago.
The next poll request 208 removes it all.
Yeah, so 208 is what got rid of it. 207 was the issue it was resolving.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not clear from this. Maybe I just need to read it a little slower. But something in here they didn't like. They're just probably from a meeting. Might have to go back and look at the meeting, October 28th of 2020. Go to Splunking for meeting notes. We put that in the TOB? Or was that in the website? Must be in the website.
Or was it under like .github or something?
It might have been.
Yep, there it
Yeah,
is.
thank you. Oh, goodness. Okay, March 2020. So we want the second set of meeting notes in here. And we need to go back to October 2020-ish. So somewhere in here, maybe the October 14th one's here. Not a whole lot of details. And I might have to pull some videos up to find that. This really feels more recent than I thought, because for this to have happened in 2020, I figured this is going to happen even farther back.
Reading this discussion is funny because it sounds like people are pushing for congealing around the OCI header, and then the conclusion is that it's gone. It's great. For what it's worth, I think removing that OCI header was the right choice. Another case of changing the strings just to change the strings with no actual behavioral change.
I can understand if someone is worried about putting a vendor name in the spec.
Yeah.
I would push for in a 1.1 that one of the two headers must be present and that one of the headers may be OCI Content Digest. Yeah, then it was gone. Yeah, I feel like we took a step backwards on that one. Wrong button. What that button?
I mean, it says should, right? Which is code for we want to make this must, but we can't. The current text about Docker Content Digest. Oh, these headers are optional.
Yeah, it's not even a should.
May encounter. Wow, that's rubbish.
And the language at the end, client should not depend on them, is really saying, don't do this.
Yeah, that's rubbish.
So we know that that's not the actual case today.
Yeah. Every client depends on these because there is no alternative. And like they've existed for many, many years now.
So what I'll say is my approach is that I use it if it's there. If it is not there, I fall back to pulling the content and hashing it.
Yeah, but there's edge cases where that doesn't work, right?
The edge case we're talking about right now is if the digest algorithm is not the canonical one.
Yeah.
From the pull request 207, it looks like registries implement this differently. That was one of the things people were complaining about for manifest lists.
I missed what you were getting at there, James. What was that again?
Oh, you said if there's not the canonical one, but it sounds like one of the problems is there wasn't a canonical one, that each registry implemented it differently for manifest lists. Whether you hash the actual manifest list itself, or whether you pull one of the images in the list and hash that and return that digest.
No, that comment's definitely misguided. That's not correct. Docker Content Digest definitely always pointed to the manifest in question.
Well, it sounds like it depends on the registry, at least based on this discussion.
I could see someone coming back with a different digest if you didn't have the right header, accept header. Yeah, which is what they're saying here. If you change the accept header, then it's going to fall back and then it's going to give you a different digest because you gave a different accept header. That's on the client though.
I don't think that downgrade stuff happens anymore though. So
Maybe not for your registry. It's in the spec.
I mean, anyone that's still doing V1 schema stuff, like we got to kill it at some point, right?
I'd love to kill it. But that it is in the spec of how to handle the fallback scenario. We have an entire section here under to do, but
It starts with to do. That's a good sign.
yeah, and hasn't been touched for 5 years. Clearly not on the top of our priority list right now. But yeah, we do say if you get this, an accept of anything is supposed to give you the V1.
But this isn't part of the spec itself, the spec text.
BC content negotiation.
Should. Yeah, fair. So we should update that to say may, and we should update the Docker Content Digest stuff to say should.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you guys. It's the spec. Pretty sure I do not fall back to V1 if someone gives me an invalid. I just say your media type was the accept header did not have a valid media type in there, so sorry.
Yeah, I know Docker Hub completely ignores the accept header today. And I know because I'm the one who made the PR that made it do so.
And is that in the upstream distribution project?
I believe it also ignores the accept header.
Yeah, it ignores it because it removed it. The upstream distribution removed all support for downgrading as well.
So they remove support for downgrading, but if you don't pass an accept header, it properly gives whatever the current one is.
No, it doesn't support V1 content at all, Schema 1 content. So
But what happened?
if you had an old registry that had some Schema 1 content and you upgrade it to distribution V3 plus, that old content is no longer addressable at all. You can't pull it.
Keep chatting amongst yourselves. I'm going to set up a test here real quick.
write a schema 1 test?
No, I'm just copying content and then gonna do a query without a header at all. Y'all are bad at talking amongst yourselves.
Can we just make a 1.2 version of this back and then we can just change all this stuff?
I think that's a request to start submitting some PRs.
I mean, this can be the first one. There's probably a few others.
I'd like to see the upload, parallel uploads, and if we're making a new version.
Actually, maybe we should just put in a put in that capabilities endpoint that actually lists out what features we support. Then we can maybe more easily roll things out.
So yeah, you are right on distribution. Distribution, if I just say curl without any header in there, it gets back and says, here you go, it's an index. Whereas if I was querying mine, this was the error I was throwing out there, which was the manifest unknown and requested media type not found. Available media type is that. So I let the user know they need to pass a header. So
Yeah, which I think is fine. There's no like, there's only V2 now. I think it's fine.
I'm going to up that 2 to 4. But as long as there's no schema V1 stuff out there.
There's a lot of V1 schema, but I honestly don't want to support it.
I think you're amongst friends with that opinion.
Yeah,
I mean,
sorry,
isn't
go
it
ahead,
really
Cam.
the V1 schema that's a problem, is it? Is the downgrading?
I would say entirely everything around V1 schema is bad.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you on that one at all. I'm just saying, like the specific issue here is more around the downgrade scenario. I mean, you can still serve V1 schema along with the hash of it, like that's or the digest of it. That's fine. It was more the scenario brought up here was if you downgraded it, which digest do you return, kind of a thing, wasn't it? But if we just don't downgrade and we just return the static content, then the digest is also static.
So many things. I'm in very strong agreement with all of it. So who wants to submit the PR?
I can take lead on that.
We have a volunteer. Awesome. Mike, would you like a memory test? Gonna throw you on the spot.
Sure.
How much do you remember back in 2000 when they decided to remove the OCI headers from the distribution spec?
I do not remember that.
Okay.
Was I involved on that poll?
I don't think you were. I saw Derek and a few of the messages in there. Um, so I was hoping he might pop in, but yeah. So Derek didn't want to find a new header, but the header we got was changed to the challenge we're getting. I don't know how far into the conversation you jumped in on this. Let's see. Where was it? It's under legacy. Legacy support for headers. The verbiage around the Docker content digest header that all of us depend on today has phrasings that you may encounter it. The headers are optional and that clients should not depend on them. And all of us here would really love to depend on it.
All of us
So-
here already are depending on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
To
the
some
spec is
degree.
wrong there.
This is extremely load bearing in practice.
But I do know I've seen somewhere. I thought it was Quay. I'll go looking around and see if someone else is the guilty party on that. Someone is not including that header. At least was at one point not including the header.
Yeah, maybe the old GitHub registry, like before GHCR.
Maybe someone just came up with their own registry and they just did something weird.
You're specifically then talking about the V1 schema from Docker now.
Not necessarily. We're saying that there is a registry out there that decided to implement the spec very strictly and did not include these Docker headers. And now because of that, the challenge we run into is if someone wanted to pin a digest to an image and they query the tag, get the digest back, well, they can't get the digest back. They can compute the digest. Now we're running into the challenge of if I compute the digest, what happens if the registry picked a different digest algorithm? I'm going to compute a different digest than what the registry knows the content as. So I can't use this to attach refers. I can't use it to pin images. I need some way that I know that I'm using the same digest algorithm as the registry.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So
I'm not sure what to say there, right?
yeah,
I mean,
no,
clearly we need to support additional digest algorithms and we need to have a test bed on which we do that. And I think we require a spec change, to any of the
Yeah.
changes that are going to be required to make it work, right? So
my knee-jerk reaction is to add back the OCI content digest headers just in case someone is concerned about whatever reason putting a vendor name in there, making the OCI or the Docker required, and that clients should support either of them if they exist. But one of them must be included in the next version of the spec. So you can't return neither.
you can't return neither. Does that mean you must return one? Or
Yeah,
what?
you must return at least one.
Okay, yeah. That's an interesting must language change. Yeah, instead of should. Yeah.
The other option is saying you must include the Docker content digest header, and I feel like somebody was tripping up on that. But
Yeah, I think the tripping on that was political, not technical.
it almost certainly was.
And I think that we should learn from our past mistakes of changing strings just for the sake of making the strings say a different thing and not require everyone to make a bunch of nothing code changes just because we wanted the string to say something else. That feels insane.
So your proposal is make the Docker string a must and
Yep.
leave it at that.
Yep. I mean, we could make it a should today, right? In a patch release.
Once we make it a must, I'll just update the conformance test. Anybody that doesn't have it doesn't conform with the latest version of the spec.
Yeah, but making it a must requires a larger version change. Where making it a should could go out in a patch release. Because a should is a soft change that means anyone who isn't is still compliant, even though we're shaking our finger at them.
Right,
then-
must would be a breaking change, yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure, we could argue that.
I would still say from the client side, I do not depend on it. Just because I know I've encountered a registry somewhere that didn't have it. I wish I could remember what that registry was.
Right, but users of your tool might depend on it, right? Like, for
So,
example, I use the command crane digest all the time. And it only works because of this header.
so I don't know the crane implementation specifically, but I'll pull mine up and kind of give you an idea.
Like this brings us back to where we started this conversation, right? If the header doesn't exist, yes, you can do a local digest of that content, but you cannot guarantee that the remote registry knows about that local digest that you created. Like you can SHA 256, the local content, and just assume the registry probably knows what that is and has it indexed in that same way, but you can't be certain without this header.
Yeah, well, you can do a GET request on that digest to the registry to like get a 200 response. But
Sure,
yeah,
but
it's
what if it gives you a 404?
yeah, then that's not the right digest is
Right. So then
yeah,
like
yeah.
the client, the user is just left hanging. They can't pin the digest for this tag anymore.
It's true. Yeah, they have to try a bunch of digests until they find the right one.
Yeah, like okay, let me
It
try
sucks.
SHA
Yeah.
512. Let me try Blake 3. Let me
Yeah.
hope that I know the digest algorithm the registry ended up using.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's not a good solution. Yeah, I agree.
I will take trying different digest algorithm over trying different digest. If you're trying just different digest, hoping you eventually get there. Oh boy, we're gonna wait a while on that one. But to jump back to that, my manifest head command has an option in there. So if you pass the option at the end to require digest, and I do not have a digest available in my descriptor for this thing, which I would populate from the header, then I fall back into a manifest get.
But
And
that
so that's
doesn't necessarily get you a digest, right?
the manifest get does because I compute the digest on the content. And I use
Right.
I use the canonical algorithm at that point. Doesn't mean you can change algorithms.
The canonical algorithm of your client, not of the registry you're talking to.
Correct.
Which,
Canonical in
while
this
we
case
all
would
live
be
in
the
this SHA 256 world, is fine, mostly, probably.
yeah. Canonical in this case being the Go Digest canonical algorithm.
Yeah. Which is something that's good. That is a
Yeah.
fallback, but it doesn't actually solve the problem.
Doesn't solve the problem we're trying to solve right here. Very true.
Because the number one most common reason a client would require a digest on that request is so that they can then pin that tag.
So in this case, that does solve that problem. If you want to pin a tag, if you want to push a refer or something like that, and you need the digest, it solves that problem. It doesn't solve the problem of, oh, the registry decided to change their canonical algorithm.
Yeah, that only solves the problem in that we assume that the registry is still using SHA-256 just like your client is.
Which today is a good assumption.
Yep, today is a valid assumption, but tomorrow may not be. And I think that it's hubris for us to believe that SHA-256 will be perfect and fine forever.
No, I don't think we're thinking that. We're already thinking of SHA-512 because of uh government restrictions coming in 2030 sometime. So yeah, it's never I think it's a bad idea to pin ourselves to 256.
I like the language pin ourselves to SHA-256. But
So I looked into this a little bit, and it seems the registry people are complaining about not supporting the Docker Content Digest is the Red Hat one. And I just checked it, and they support it now. So it might have just been like an old thing that's no longer a problem.
they may have given up. I was pretty sure that it was Quay, but yeah, I just verify that Quay is not doing it. So maybe it was a past version of Quay, or maybe the Red Hat has another registry out there somewhere.
There's registry.access.redhat.com that people were complaining about not supporting it. But I just
Okay.
wanted to, and that one supports it now.
Okay. Thank you.
So, okay, I can give you a little bit of a background on that specific endpoint. So, so registry.access is a special registry which is essentially a proxy to other registries. So, third-party companies or Red Hat partners, more specifically, host their content on their own internal registries or somewhere like, I don't know, GitHub or whatever. But customers want to pull through a Red Hat domain. So because of all the certificate trust and all that. So we created this registry.access, which essentially acts as a proxy to third parties. So whenever someone requests a pull, we figure out, okay, for this repository or this image, where is the target? And then we just proxy that. So if people are seeing Docker content header not being supported, it's probably some other third party registry that's being proxied through us.
Oh, because that's a lot more annoying than.
Yeah. But like officially, Koi.io is the official Red Hat registry, and that supports it.
Do you know that it's always supported?
I can check when they added it. Hold on. So I know for the fact that at least in 2020 it was supported. So
I mean, that's
the
saying
first,
something. I feel like I've seen it not working after that. So
so this is November 2020, so almost
yeah,
2021.
yeah. So it may not have been Quay that was the one that was getting my attention. Maybe it was something with registry access or the access one.
It's possible.
Now I'm curious if everybody chatting RFCs. Do we send this upstream? Make it RFC 9530.
If we're going to add some new header to the spec, we should do one that is like a standardized header that covers even more use cases than our header does. If we're just going to change the text of the header name, like, that's insane.
Spec's got a lot going for it here.
It's even got headers for the client to say, I want SHA 512s,
Yep.
which is cute. And it says that the server can happily ignore that and send the client SHA 256 anyways.
Which is exactly what every registry is going to do.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's almost like they read our spec and were like, what if this were good?
What if we force this on OCI, or what if OCI adopted this?
Yeah. Does it mention Blake 3? It does not.
Womp womp.
So I'm curious how they would suggest representing like the bit depth of Blake 3, where it's variable or can be variable. Because that seems like an important thing to include in a spec like this.
They exclude Blake 3 and FIPS 140 ROM. That's funny. I guess, is it just not standard enough yet?
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I think it's weird to have a standard like this that isn't also considering that. Because I don't see how you would convey the hashing algorithm if it's got a variable bit length. Maybe I need to actually read the spec instead of just skim it.
That's all we ever do in this meeting anyway. Yeah, my thought is that if you said I wanted Blake 3, the server can give you Blake 3 of whatever bit depth it wants to give it to you. Now, if you say I want this specific digest for the content, then it can use whatever digest it received and look at that bit depth. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it. If it's OCI, we've already defined what Blake 3's digest is, or bit depth is. So here, I think that was image spec, wasn't it?
Yeah, like it's funny that this spec includes Unix sum and CRC32 and Adler and SHA and MD5, but not Blake 3.
Yeah. If it's OCI and Blake 3, we define it. Whether the upstream stuff does or not. Plan IO, huh?
Well, I just added that. I think that's where Red Hat added it. So I think they had it for 6 years now.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, pulp is the old registry that's long gone.
Man, time has been in a time warp. I could have sworn it was after that, but maybe it was that time frame. A lot of things have happened since then. Alrighty. Anything else? We're coming up on the last minute here. I feel like it was still productive though. Going once. Going twice. So I'll have to start tracking down Jory, see if I can figure out where she's hiding at. And we will circle back here next week. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
See y'all. Bye.